Hi, and welcome to Aspire. In today's video, we'll be talking about estimating, specifically estimating contract opportunities. In this video, you'll learn how to create an estimate for a contract opportunity, understand how to create a payment schedule for fixed price contracts, and last, discover how to print and email proposals. Let's catch up with Tyler to get started.
So now that we have everything on our first page filled out, we can go up to our three-dot menu and click Create Estimate. And if I go back, notice we're starting from scratch. I showed you that detailed maintenance agreement. It had multiple groups listed out. Starting from scratch, you can see we have a blank slate here. So if we type in regular maintenance, whatever we want this to be, and then we can click in here. So we have our header, we have our group header, and then anytime you see select one in this estimating screen, that's if you hover over this little plus sign, it's going to say add a service. So we're going to add a service, and what we mean by services, if I type the word mow, you're going to see I have numerous mow services in my catalog. So for this instance, I'm going to select this mow trim edge blow. And notice I have a prefix here of MT. That is telling me as the estimator that this service, mow trim edge blow, is going to go to the revenue and costs are going to go to my maintenance division. But when I click it, notice that MT goes away. And that's because in your administration, in the back end, when you set all this stuff up, you'll have a display name field. And so the display name, you can delete out what you don't want to show. Anytime you see display, that means it's going to display to the customer. So you're going to name the service MT-mow trim edge blow. But for the customer, what the customer sees is just without the prefix. And notice this is set up fixed payment. I have a description here. I'll show you where that's added. You don't have to have anything added, but I have this in here so that anytime I add this service to a contract, this service description automatically pulls through. And we'll get into that later in the administration section on where that is added, so that you can see that on a proposal. But now that we've added our service, notice our price is still zero. We can't go out there and do anything. We don't have any labor. We need to add our items. So remember, our items are our ingredients. We've got labor, material, rental equipment, subcontractors, and other. So for this instance, I'm going to add some maintenance labor. Again, our test system has all kinds of different labor items in here. See if I can find what I'm looking for. Labor maintenance. And then I'm just going to leave it at that. Notice I have occurrences. If I hover over these headers at the top here, they're abbreviated right now, but if you hover over them with your mouse, it'll show you what they stand for. So we've got occurrences, quantity, complexity, per hours, actual hours. We've got our per price, total price, gross margin. So here we are, we're building. I'm going to click the plus sign to add another service. I'm going to add some pruning. Again, same thing. The service had the prefix, but the display name doesn't. And I need to go out there with some maintenance labor. You know, maybe if your pruning was done by a different crew, maybe you called it gardening service or gardening crew or something, you could set up a different labor for that crew. If you wanted to add a dump fee to prune, for your pruning, you could add a dump fee. Say we didn't want it. If you add an item and you don't want it, you can right click in any of these white areas here. So if you right click, you have the opportunity to copy it or delete it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete it. We don't want that on there. And let's see, This is a pretty simple contract, not a huge property. I'm going to add the service bed maintenance. And again, I need some labor. And actually bed maintenance, I need some material as well. So I'm going to add some Roundup here. Notice if I type round, I get all kinds of irrigation parts as well. So you can scroll through there. You can always click the drop down. It's going to have a ton of stuff, but typing it out, what you're looking for, will help narrow down your search. Let's say we're going to use a backpack each time, maybe 2 hours. So once you add your services in here, you can go through and start adding occurrences. So I'm in Kansas City. As far as a weekly mow contract here in this area of the country is about 30 occurrences. And pruning, let's say we're going to go out there 3 times. Notice if I add the occurrence here in the service level, it automatically populates it to my items down here. And bed maintenance, so if we're going to go out there weekly to mow, and let's say we're going to go out there and do maybe a bi-weekly bed maintenance, so 15 occurrences. And you can see we almost have a complete contract here. One thing that when I met with Justin, he asked me about a price for turf aeration and overseeding. So I said, yeah, I'll go ahead and include that on your contract as an optional service. So if I just type turf, you can see I've got all kinds of different things. Again, these prefixes are going to my division. So if I wanted this enhancement, since it's optional, I'm going to choose this enhancement division, even though this is a maintenance contract. If for whatever reason later in the year, I approached Justin and sold this as an additional service, I want that going to my enhancement revenue. So I'm going to add that as an enhancement. Maybe you say, I don't care, it's still a maintenance contract, I want that going to my maintenance division. You can set it up to however, whatever you would like to be to see on your profit and loss statement. So again, remember, anytime you add a service, you need to have some items. So I'm going to add some labor. In this case, I'm going to add enhancement labor. And then we're going to go out there and seed as well. So I need some seed. So you can notice the item type is material. And so you'll see we've got some plants here, but then we've also got some grass seed. Let's see. Let's do sunny seed, and it's going to be by the pound. Let's say 300 pounds. We're going to aerate and overseed. I'm just going to say 12 hours. It's like my cost on that labor is a little high. I'll leave it alone. I'll show you how to change that later. But so now we've got this optional aeration and overseeding, 2484.77. You can see that's not going to our total price because it is optional. And as I mentioned before, and so now if we collapse these, you can see our 3 different services that we have. So mowing, pruning, bed maintenance. And these are going to be set up under our fixed payment. But if we wanted to add mulching, so let's add a service, mulching, and let's maybe just to touch up. If we click into this service, it's going to follow what we had on our front page for invoice type. But as I mentioned, you can click in here and change it to per service. So we're going to change for this mulch service, we're going to invoice at the time of service after we complete it. It's as simple as that. So once we change that, we made a change. Anytime you make a change to the service detail page, you want to click save. And then we've got to add some labor to go out there and do it. Again, our test system is a little messy because we've got so many cooks in the kitchen, but your system will hopefully be a little bit cleaner. And so then we need to add the mulch itself. It's hard to go out there and mulch if we don't actually add the material in there. So let's just say we've got 10 yards. I'm going to do 12 hours. And there we've got our mulch service. One last thing for me to point out here. Notice my pricing here. This is all coming from, I've got markups set in administration, and you guys will get that all set up to whatever you are wanting to charge per labor hour. In this case, my maintenance labor is being billed out $42.86 an hour. So you can set that up in the administration area. But notice that there is a box here where it looks like you can click in, and that's because you can. So this is how you override a price on a particular estimate. So if so this is what my markups are telling me, but the customer budgeted $1,500 for mulching. You can click in and change the price. And if it's higher than what our system has for your markups, it's going to be green. If we delete it out, and it'll go back to the standard markup. If it's a little bit lower, maybe you know that as you're entering some of your existing contracts, it's going to be common for your pricing to not match up exactly how it is in Aspire with your markups. So you may have a price that you've promised a customer that's a little bit below what the markup is here in Aspire. So in this case, $1,000. Notice it turns yellow. So as you're entering some of your existing contracts, your legacy contracts, it's going to be common for you, to have several green and yellow boxes in here until you get everything dialed in how you want it. All right, I know we covered a lot there. So we basically have created a simple maintenance contract, and we just have the one header. You can have multiple headers if you choose, if you wanted irrigation services separate. The nice thing is if you created a contract with irrigation services, and then saved it as a template, and then you chose this template on a property that didn't have irrigation, having it under its own group is nice because you can delete that entire group and not have to click into each one of these line items. So it's all about how you'll get to a point where you know what you want to see on the proposal, and your customers are maybe accustomed to seeing it a certain way. So it's just all about setting it up how you would like. But I know we covered a lot there. I'm going to stop and see if anybody has any questions on how to create this estimate, what we did. Any questions on how we added things?
Ray has his hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
Couple maintenance contracts that have a T&M service as part of the contract. How does Aspire handle that?
Yeah, sure. So is the entire contract T&M or just that one service?
Just one service.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and add that in here, add your service in like we did mulch, click into it, and then click the drop down here and change it to T&M.
Will that show in the total price of the contract, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it will, but it will obviously when you actually bill it out, it's going to bill out accordingly to however many actual hours and actual material you used. The next step here, I'll show you what it looks like as far as printing it, a print preview of it, and then what the fixed payment versus per service looks like on the print preview screen. So now that we've got all of our services in here how we want it, I'm going to click out of these and make them back to the standard markups. It's just a good practice to kind of peruse back through here, make sure you don't have any zeros. Double check your occurrences are what you want them to be. And then once you feel good about everything, come back over to your opportunities tab. So we've got opportunity 916, and notice we're in a bidding status right now. If we're done estimating, we're gonna hit estimate complete. Not sure why my end date got deleted, but I'm gonna put that back in there. Click estimate complete. Anytime you see a prompt, Aspire's pretty nice to, if there's something wrong, it'll prompt you. Just a little tip is if there's a prompt, notice it went away pretty quickly. If you move your mouse and hover over the prompt, it'll stay up there as long as you are hovering over it. So a lot of times sometimes they're kind of wordy, and so people get mad because they disappear too quickly and they didn't quite catch what it said. If you hover your mouse over it, you can see what it says. So here, once we complete the estimate, complete the contract here, you'll be prompted for this fixed payment screen. So you can click the drop down and the time of month invoice, first, middle, or last. So select that. We're going to keep this first. And then you've got a couple options here. So notice our start and end date was January through December. So we're seeing all the months. Obviously, if it was different than that, it would show whatever you have your start and end date months set up to be. But in this case, it's all 12 months. And then we're going to either spread or spread and round. So if I click spread, notice it takes our total, the services that were as set up for fixed payment, takes the total of those and divides it by 12 down to the penny. So you notice some months are 97, others are 96, but we have a 0 down here. The other option is spread and round to a nice even number every month, but we do have a difference of 42 cents down here that we are going to eat that cost. So however you want to do it, you may have some customers that require an even number. In this case, I'm going to click just spread and have it down to the penny. Now, let's say before I click into this screen, let's say I know that my customer, for whatever reason, wants to be billed April through October, because that's how it's set up for, a lot of times apartment complexes will do that. And then if you're in a region where there's snow, they'll do their snow budget on the opposite months. And so in that case, if you know that and you come up here to estimate complete, before you click one of these drop downs and auto populate numbers in here, you'll just simply grab a calculator like I'm going to do right now. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, 2807, 58 divided by 7 months, April through October. And that gives me 401.08. And I'm going to select it and just simply copy and paste that into these months through. And as I do this, if I scroll down, you'll notice it's counting down for me. So I'm off by a little bit here. I'm going to add these 2 pennies to the last month, but that would be how I do that. And so leave the zeros in November, December, and then January through March at the top. Click save. And notice we're now in an approved status. So one thing about Aspire, when we get into this approved status, that doesn't mean the customer has approved it. That simply means that this estimate is approved and ready to go to the customer. You can set up a threshold, a dollar amount to where maybe anything over 20,000 or 5,000, whatever you want it to be, goes to a manager to review prior to, and then it'll go into kind of a pending approval status. And it'll have a big draft across the proposal so that if you tried to print it, it would say draft. You can have that set up, and then it would go to a pending approval. The manager would review it, approve it, and then it would go to this approved status so that it's ready to go to the customer. The next step in the status process here is we got to send it to the customer. So a couple options here. We can either print it or we can email it. So if we print it, I'm going to show you, you've got a couple options here. Click our drop down, and this is a contract. Notice you have a couple of templates for work orders and style 1 and 2 for contracts. So let's go ahead and look at style 1, see what that looks like. Hopefully everyone's able to see my pop-up window here. But here's where you can see, this is just kind of a default layout that we have set up for you. I want to move this over so you can see that this landscape maintenance contract cohort, that's coming from the opportunity name. You've got your customer up here. This is going to be your primary contact and their information, and then your property information. So in this case, Justin is officed at the property, but that may not always be the case. Maybe your primary contact is officed elsewhere, and so their information is going to be different from the property. And then you can see proposal description 1. We typed in scope of work. That's where this shows up right here underneath the header of opportunity name. And then we've got our services listed out. And so we've got mow, trim, edge, blow, pruning, and bed maintenance set up under our fixed payment services, which was that 2807.58. And then we added in the mulch to be billed upon completion. And then you can see last we have our optional services, in this case, turf aeration and overseeding, and then a line for your client to initial on if you're trying to get approval during the initial signing. So if we scroll down, see if I can. So page 2 has our payment schedule. Remember, we set it up to bill equal monthly, April through October for the fixed payment portion. If we did the spread or spread and round, it would be all 12 months. If there was sales tax on it, it would show up on here. I don't think my system is set up to charge sales tax, but if you do charge sales tax, you want to make sure to have that set up, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. Then you can have your own signature set up. I don't remember doing that, but it looks pretty sloppy. And then you can have your customer, obviously your customer's signature, or they would have the opportunity to sign. This is a printout. You can also download this and then email it that way if you would like, if you want to do it through your own system. And then remember, I pointed out this mowing service description earlier when I clicked on the mow service within the estimate. This is where you can have like detailed service descriptions show up on the proposal. So for pruning, you could have an explanation of, what all gets pruned, when you do it, generally whatever description you would like for each individual service within the contract. Mulch touch up, maybe you put in a note that says, a light layer of mulch just simply will be top dressed simply to change the color and not for horticultural purposes or whatever. If you're adding a light layer instead of 2 or 3 inches, just so that there's complete transparency. Optional services, again, it's just showing that there's a area for the service description. And then finally, page 4 has our terms and conditions, and you likely have a lengthy terms and conditions, and you may have different terms and conditions for work orders versus contracts. So you want to make sure to have that information set up and then saved on your templates accordingly. So that's what style 1 looks like. If we go into print and look at style 2 real quick, you get the idea here. One of your tasks in Guide CX is to submit your layout requests. So Guide CX is our project management tool to keep you on pace for graduating throughout our implementation process. And so one of your homework assignments is to submit layout requests. So make sure to go through style 1 and style 2, decide which one you want to go with, and then you can have certain requests. You just make comments on this and submit it to our care team. Maybe you don't want this cost breakdown, you just want to show the total. Whatever it is, you can make those requests. So you can see style 2 is a little bit more modern looking, I think. Less boxy. So whatever style you want to go with is up to you. The other option, as I mentioned, either printing or email. Notice that since I did print it, it changed the status to delivered because it's assuming that I printed it out and I'm going to meet with the client. It would also, if I clicked email proposal and emailed it, it would also change the status to delivered. So you have the option to click on the email and then it will have your primary contact information in here. If you want to click and add other people, you can. If they're not in Aspire, you can click and add it manually there to it. It says enter non-contact emails, separate by a semicolon. So you have that option. If you wanted to CC yourself, you can certainly do that. I'm not actually going to do that. And then notice we have a subject with some tokens, what we call tokens. So it's automatically going to pull in whatever the opportunity number is and the opportunity name, in this case, 916, and then our landscape maintenance contract or agreement, whatever we named it, I can't remember. If you wanted to attach a PDF of the contract itself, you want to make sure to select the right style, and it'll be as an attachment. And then if you want them to be able to sign it electronically, make sure this is checked. And all this information is pre-populated, set up in our administration area. And I can show you where that gets done here in a little bit. But notice we have attached as a proposal for your review. And again, we have some tokens in here. If you want to set up this little magnifying glass looking thing is how you add tokens. So if you wanted to click in here and add any additional information that's not currently on your pre-populated message, you could add that. So in this case, you could add additional verbiage if you would like, and then send it off. If your customer's set up to sign electronically, they'll be able to do that. If they do sign it, you'll see a little signature area down here. So say they sign, say you get you have an iPad or a tablet or something, and you're meeting with the customer, and you show it, you present it there on your tablet, and they say, yeah, let's move forward with it. How do we proceed? You can pull it up, hit sign in one, if you wanted to, and then your customer could then sign it. I'm going to do a messy Justin here. And you'd click save. When that happens, we won it. What we call so it's approved by the customer, and that's what we call winning an opportunity. And so you notice we had the opportunity, or one of our options up here was one or sign in one. So I did sign in one just so I could show you that if a customer did sign it, you could see this little pin icon. And anytime the status, if you're wondering who did what, who created it, who approved it, when was it proposed, you can hover over this little I, and we call it our audit trail. So you can see, obviously we've done everything today. So, and then it has my initials there, but you can hover over that. That's kind of neat to see the progression of the contract. But if you click in here, you can see the customer signature. So, and when they signed it. And now notice it's in production. So it's been won. Once you win an opportunity, it goes into production, and that means we have generated work tickets that can then be scheduled. So if we go up to our 3-dot menu, Notice we have work tickets, and this drop-down menu gets significantly longer the further you move through an opportunity's life cycle here. So now we have work tickets. And remember, work tickets are what actually get scheduled. So remember, we had 30 Mo occurrences. So you can scroll through here and see it's just a good practice that, especially early on here, as you guys are getting comfortable with Aspire and winning contracts, go click into your work tickets and just scroll through here, and it'll show the hours that you have budgeted, the number of occurrences. In this case, I've got multiple pages here. I'm going to click over. So you can see I've got 30 occurrences, Mo occurrences. We've got our 3 pruning occurrences. And then we've got 15 bed maintenance occurrences. And then finally our mulch occurrence. So when I say occurrences, these are what gets scheduled. So once a contract's been won, it's as easy as coming over to your schedule board. You want to make sure, now you'll have a separate session that goes into scheduling in more detail. I'm just going to simply show you real quick how easy it is to schedule a work ticket. So if I go over to my scheduling module on the left-hand side, I'm now looking at my schedule board. You can see Tuesday today is in blue. If I click this little clipboard icon, it takes me to a list of my work tickets. And I've got a list of all kinds of work tickets in here that have been won. So if I search my property, specific property UPX Parkville, it will do just those. I think we created this under North Liberty. And so you can see here's our tickets. We've got our tickets scheduled out, and it's as easy as dragging the first occurrence and drag it out to the schedule and drop it.
Tyler, I saw sign in one, but what if the customer, sends it back via, scans it and sends it back, or sends it back in the mail? I didn't see the
Yep.
option for just.
Yep, good question. So let's go back into our opportunity here. This is the 916. This is what we created. Now let's reset it to bidding and say that, notice we're in bidding status again. So we're going to say estimate complete. And so your question is, I selected sign in one, but if you printed it out and met with the customer and they signed like a hard copy, you would come back to the office and come in here and just click one. And that's the same deal. If you wanted to scan the actual signed contract and upload it here, notice you can attach files to this opportunity. So you can do this for both work orders and contracts. And so if you wanted to the original copy that was signed, maybe they made some initial optional services or made some notes on there. You want to have the original uploaded and attached to this, you can do that. So whether that's your salesperson or account manager, or maybe an admin, an administrative person, you guys will need to come up with that, whoever is in charge of winning that. But it'd be based on your roles and permissions that are set up for your users. Good question. All right. So if there's no other questions, I'm going to continue on here and show you a couple other options that you have once you have got something set up. So notice we're in production here, but we have a couple options. So we can click on our 3-dot menu and we can copy this if we know that we want this identical. Maybe we proposed this, but they said, let's not include mulch this year. Let's take that out. Well, instead of going and resetting to bidding and all that and changing it, maybe we want record of what we initially proposed. So then we can copy this. And when we click copy, notice we have the opportunity to change properties. So we could actually copy this same maintenance contract to a different property, but we can also copy it to this property, and then it would have a new opportunity number assigned. And so when you copy something, it's going to ask you, do you want to update your takeoffs, update your costs, prices, kits, etc. Generally, you're going to want to check yes. So unless it's like, same day and costs and prices haven't changed, you can uncheck those. But it's as easy as that. So if you wanted to change the property, you'll have a drop-down list of all your properties in here, or you can simply type, if I wanted to change the property to Swift residence, I could. I'm not going to actually copy it, but it's as simple as that. Now, in this case, so now that we started from scratch, we built out our contract, we want to save this as a template. So if you click on your three dots, click Save as Template, and then it's just going to ask you what branch. If you have more than one branch, you'll want to select your branch. In this case, it's going to be mine. And I know that I already actually have this saved as a template, so I'm not going to actually click Save, but it's as easy as that. And then I will show you where that goes from there. So now, once you have a template saved, it's as easy as clicking your new opportunity, going into your maintenance division, wherever, if in this case, it was a maintenance template. And then I know that this one is titled Cohort Training Maintenance Contract. So if I create this estimate, notice it already has my services in here. It has my labor in here. It has pruning, the turf aeration and overseed. Now it looks like my template didn't have the mulching. I could always add that if I wanted to, or add any other service for that matter. But the template is just for efficiency's sake. So you don't have to re-enter in a bunch of information, all the services and items that you want. So from here, you can change, maybe you want 28 occurrences instead of 30, and so forth. So templates are very useful. It zeroes out the hours because each property is going to be different. No property is going to be, you might have properties with the same, but generally each property is going to be different hours. And so anytime you're starting from scratch and using a template, you're going to enter in new hours. But that's how you would start a new opportunity using a template. And notice you can see what template we used. It's listed here. If you wanted to have all these services set up as per service, if you knew that you wanted this to be a per service contract, before I click up here and hit create estimate, when we first started, I would have wanted to change that. The reason being is that if I go into my estimate and I click into each one of my services, notice it's saying it doesn't have it in here because I changed it to per service, but each one of these services is going to follow what's on that main screen. So just know that when you're starting from scratch or starting over a click new opportunity, if you don't want fixed payment, make sure to select the correct one. I'm gonna actually delete this. Depending on your roles or permissions, not everybody is gonna have the chance to delete stuff. So, maybe there's account managers within your company or salespeople that you don't want to delete stuff right away. That's definitely an option.
Now that we've taken the opportunity to look at how to estimate contract opportunities, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.